Hi and welcome to Being Beta, where today I'm going to be putting up a chicken run. The chicken run itself is from a company called Feel Good. I found it off eBay and it's a 2x3 meter medium cage with a cover over the top. So the run itself came in these two boxes here. So what I've done, I've just laid out everything. It had handy little numbered stickers on all the bits and pieces, and then I've just gone through and I've checked that I've got the correct number of parts as is detailed in the instructions. They haven't specified any tools, but there was a pack with a tool on here, a couple of these tools, so hopefully that'll be sufficient. If not, I'll go and grab some tools and then I'll put a little description what tools I've used on this screen. Okay, so the first step is pretty self-explanatory on here, but what I've done is I've just laid everything out as per the diagram, and then I'm going to fit it all together so everything's already in order, just to make life a little easier. If you're wondering what that random grass mound is, that's what my kids made for when the chickens arrive, so they can get stuck in any bugs that have nestled in there. Right, so we're going to get this put together now. This is the roof section, so once it's up I'll film the next stage. So the roof section is now made up. The only thing, sort of top tip really, this doesn't come naturally to me, this sort of stuff, but it seems pretty obvious once you figure it out. These connectors here, basically you just have the black bit facing to the front for all corners, and same detail around the back. You have exactly the same, these sort of black little tabs face outwards. Okay, so next thing I've done, according to the steps, I've popped a couple of legs up on the roof section, just on this side, and then they said the next thing to do was to make the ground base frame. So what I've done here, the only problem is I'm not entirely sure if I've got the holes in the right places. I've done it as best I can according to the diagram, but if they are the wrong way round, then I'll just have to flip them over and crack on. Okay, so it's starting to take shape. We slotted the roof section with the legs in, then hoisted up this side and put the two remaining legs on the other to connect it to the ground frame. Then in terms of positioning, it seems to have worked. What I was working off was the holes for these braces nearest the connectors, and that seems to have worked, for instance in this corner here. So I'm just going to repeat the same pattern all the way around, coming together. So I've sighted the chicken run basically where we wanted it, and now unrolled the fencing or mesh, which I'm basically just pulling over the top nice and gently, and then it's unraveling itself at this stage. It's probably definitely going to be easier with two people. But basically once I've got it roughly in position, I'm going to leave a little skirt as well, because apparently predators, particularly foxes, tend to dig, come up to the frame itself and then dig straight down. So if you have a bit of skirt going underneath, they dig down into the mesh and then give up eventually. So the theory goes, we shall see. But yeah, definitely an easier job with two people on this. You could have one person unraveling whilst the other person's lifting it up and over the top and then creating that skirt. So we'll see how we get on. Okay, so update on the chicken run itself. You will notice magically there has appeared a chicken coop. So that's on a separate video. We decided to build the coop inside the run just so we didn't have to move it around later. But coming back to the run itself, we've got the fencing in place. So what I ended up doing is I scored a line right around the chicken run itself. I then moved the chicken run off to one side, got a shovel in here, jumped down on the shovel, leant back and just lifted the turf, and I did that all the way around that rectangle. We put the chicken run back in place, threw the fence over, and what we've actually done is got a skirt and pushed the skirt into the ground at an angle, because predators, particularly foxes, they tend to come up to the run and dig straight down. So as they dig down, they're just going to hit more fence, and hopefully again that'll just put them off continuing to dig. So we've done one section, and again just tied all of these, or cable tied all of the fencing into place. Obviously clearly going to go around and do all the snipping at the end. So we started on this side, we unraveled the fence, literally a two-person job this. One person's unraveling, the other person is lifting the mesh right the way over the top of the frame, come all the way down, pushed the skirt into that trench that I dug, then flattened the turf back on top, and now we're going to start the process of cable tying, and we're going to do it from the bottom, pulling up any slack through the mesh, then cable tying to this pole, pulling up any slack to this pole, and continuing so that all the slack runs off the far end. Then you can snip, and then leave yourself enough skirt to then put under the turf this end, and then the final bit of cable tying will be on this side here. Okay, so we're just coming to the front fencing section now. What we're going to do, rather than loop up over the top, I think that's going to be quite fiddly, is we're actually going to go from side to side and see how that goes. Certainly for this bottom piece here, that's going to be much easier in terms of the height and everything else, and then just literally all we need to do is cut down the side then, and we'll see how we get on for this sort of section up here then. So my very able assistant has now basically positioned it. We had the reel up here, we got the width that we needed, so we've literally just snipped straight up the side. Just a pair of heavy duty scissors is doing the job, and now once we've got this positioned, we're then going to trim at an angle up here, and then that'll be it. Okay, so pretty much done, not completely done. It's definitely a two-person job, okay, to make it a lot easier, both in terms of feeding the cables through, particularly when you start to overlap. It's handy if you've got someone on the inside, you push one end of the cable tie through, they thread it through, push it back, and then it just makes the job a lot quicker. So there's still definitely some bits and pieces to do on here. I need to go and trim all of the remainder of these leftover bits of the cable tie. Where it overlaps like so, I now need to thread in some of the longer mesh. You've got like individual reels, which I'll show you now actually. Like this. And you basically go in and out between the overlaps, and then tie it off at one end, and that'll keep that nice and secure. I've cable tied just in a couple of key places, but obviously I won't keep the chickens in there in this state, because anything can still just push through those gaps. So the chickens will be secure in the house, and then I can tie this mesh together. So yeah, that'll be the last little job to do, put the cover on, and then that's it. So the keen-eyed amongst you will notice there's now chickens in. So prior to popping the chickens in, the last little bit of work I did was where the mesh overlaps, you provided with those reels of mesh like line. So I intertwined it to keep it all nice and safe, and then what I have done is then started to intersperse cable ties as well, just at points where it's a little bit loose. So I've done that all the way around, right the way over the top and over to the other side back down, and then all the way along the middle on the front and rear sides. So last thing I'm going to do now is put the cover on. Again, in summer, just providing a bit of shade for the chickens. In winter, when it's raining, just making sure the ground stays a bit drier for them. Again, it's all right with waterfowl, but if you've got chickens, you want to try and keep their feet dry, or as dry as possible, otherwise they develop sort of fungal issues and all sorts. So I'm going to put the cover on now. Also, that's just going to stop any sort of predators. We get quite a lot of buzzards and kites around here. It'll stop the chickens getting stressed if they're sort of circling. So yeah, I'll crack on with that now and show you when I'm done. So I haven't put the sheet in place just yet, but I'm just going to show you this roof bar here that curves all the way around. What I ended up having to do was stand up on the bench, cut just one strand of mesh so that I could push this side around and clip it on the seating on this side, and then come back into the run itself, and then clip it in place just with this little tab here. And then I repeated that same thing on the other side. And now with the sheet, what I've done is I've put the sheet over the run itself, and I've started to toggle it on in place. So I'm going to show you the technique. It's probably easy with 2 people, as with most things, but I'll show you how I'm managing just on my own. So basically what I'm doing is getting one of these toggles, I'm pushing it through the eyelet, then over the pole, and then what I'm doing is now getting a flathead screwdriver, getting the other end of the bungee, pulling it through until I can then get my finger in, and then I'm pulling it taut and then wrapping it over the top. Now these are quite taut, I'm sure they manufacture to have a little bit of give over time, but that's the technique that I found that seems to be using. If you know any better technique, please just leave a comment below. Okay, so that's it. The slabs are now in place. Again, over time I'm gonna add more slabs in. For now I'm just putting the feed and water on just so it makes it a bit quicker to be able to clear up all the spilt feed at the end of the day. But like I say, I'm going to extend into here so then I can start to put straw down. We're in spring now, so I've got a few months before that becomes a bit more pressing, so I'm going to try and source some free paving slabs as and when I can get hold of them. I've also gone round, I've snipped all of the ends of the zip ties or cable ties off now, so just aesthetically it looks a little better, and it stops my kids going to catch their eye or anything like that as they're running past the run itself. But yeah, that's pretty much it now for the chicken run. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like, comment, share and subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.